Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Choices. I'm your host, Nick Kroll. Today, I have TJ Pruitt with me, owner and founder of DragCoverage. Thanks for being here.
Yes, sir. Glad to be here. What's up, Nick? How's it going, man?
Dude, it's good. It's good. So can you explain what DragCoverage is?
Wait, dude, before we get to the business, I got to put this out here. All right. First of all, you can't just go straight to business, man, because I got to tell my story. You know, I'm like surfing through Instagram, and I'm like inspired by all these big ass bodybuilders and all. And I'm trying to set up how we got here first. So I'm scrolling through all these bodybuilders, and I'm like, all right, this dude's big. Nah, dude, he all right. And then there's this dude walks up, he's all shredded, got this big ass wide back, and he's like, trying to put all these poses in there. And I'm like, okay, I'll follow him a little bit. But anyway, that's how we got here. Then I hit you up, bro. And I'm like, dude, I'm impressed. But it's crazy how, I just say that because it's crazy how social media connects so many people with friendships. Because I feel like we're friends now. We've talked so long, man. And we're here. I know. It just feels good to talk to you. Finally put face to face and meet because we've talked so long, man. But I just want to let you know that because you're still small as F. I'm still a little bigger. You may have me on body fat, but I'm like 260 pounds and I'll still body slam your ass. So, but anyway. I am glad to be here. Whatever your question was, I just want to let you know that.
No, I think that's a good
point. This, brother.
Social media is pretty crazy. Like dude, I have like my moments where I hate it, but I love it too. Cause it's one of those things that like you get sucked in sometimes, or like you're trying to have a conversation with someone and they're just scrolling through Instagram or something. Hey, we're here right now. Like, let's talk. But social media has connected me with so many cool people. I mean, we wouldn't be doing this if it wasn't for Instagram.
That's what I mean. I feel like we literally connect. We talk about dogs, bodybuilding, racing.
Yeah, man.
I almost convinced you to go to your drag race,
dude.
Even though you wussied out.
I couldn't get tickets.
Yeah. But anyway, Dad says people do what they want to do, but I'm gonna let you slide. You got 2022. You're just gonna have to watch me race, but we're gonna get there in a little bit. And I'll tell you how I got drag coverage started. But yeah, man, I'm pumped. I'm excited to be here.
Dude, me too. I like the energy. I like this energy.
Oh, this is all the time. Get used to it.
I love it. So tell us what drag coverage is first.
Yeah, so I was at Auburn University. So I'm in electrical engineering at Auburn University. And I'm not going to tell you the year because it's going to give my age away. And I don't want your followers to know how young I am. So we'll go from there. But anyway, I'm at Auburn University and I'm like, we're drag racing. We're on the local scene. But there's really no place. This is before Facebook. You know, Facebook has basically taken over. Facebook and Instagram has basically taken over society in a sense and the way we communicate. So before Facebook, I started this website because I saw the need for drag racers to get together and communicate and talk, figure out where races are. And I'm just thinking out ahead. So I started this website and I'm sitting at a co-op, an engineering co-op, and I'm trying to think of names. And my coworker says, what about drag coverage? And I said, oh, I like it. Let's stick with it. And so I started drag coverage for that communication news website. And to this day, drag coverage is I started back in like 2003. So that tells you how old it is. Started back in 2003. And to this day, several friendships were made. I've got lifelong, one of my best friends in drag racing I met on drag coverage. So that's how it was started. Basically as a communication website to communicate where drag races are going to be, the results from drag races. And I also started a message board, and that's where the friendships were built. We, even to this day, we still, when we see each other, call each other by our message board usernames. Do you remember the message board days?
A little bit. I didn't really have.
Are you too young for message boards?
When I was a kid, I wasn't allowed to have that stuff.
Are you too young for message boards?
No, but my father was crazy, so I wasn't allowed to have anything till I was like 16.
Oh, you missed out on the best part of life: message boards and forums.
Yeah.
But to this day, we still call each other by our names. But yeah, that was mainly the reason why I started. And it kind of progressed. All right, so just think about this. You got this this website for drag coverage. People signed in every day. I'd update the front page with news and results. And that turned into a message board. So you leave the front page and go to the web message board. And so when Facebook and Instagram came out, I'm like, this is going to suck. My website is going to die. I'm going to lose my I think at the time we probably had about 10,000 views a month. I'm going to lose those 10,000 views a month. But I jumped on the bandwagon with Facebook and Instagram, and we're about 13 million views. We reach about 13 million people a year on drag coverage, just on Facebook alone. And so you had Instagram about the same number on Instagram. So you reach, there's probably 20 plus million people that we reach.
Wow. That's awesome. Yeah. I love that. Like so, I mean, oh my God, I have so many questions right off the bat there.
No, ask the questions. I'm excited. So
like, what are the challenges? In 2003, technology isn't near what it is right now. Like making a website was not like just, oh, I'm going to go to Shopify or Wix. Like that shit didn't exist. So you had like coding and everything, right?
I had to do the coding. Fortunately, I found this program software called Dreamweaver. And so I would use Dreamweaver. So basically Dreamweaver lets you design the website and it would turn it into code. And then you publish it. I had to learn all that. I didn't know anything about websites.
Self-taught.
And the same. So so I'd use Dreamweaver and it converted to code. And I did that for several years until Facebook came. But now, of course, I use WordPress. I mean, I'm sure most people use WordPress right now. It's so easy. Upload a template. It makes things. I have an app on my phone. I can upload news, photos from the app. Yeah, the coding in Dreamweaver was horrible. Oh, look how far technology has came, dude. I'm like, literally had to go through my desk. Now I can just update everything from my phone, Facebook, Instagram, and the website. So
was there ever a point where you were like, I can't eat, like, I don't know what I'm doing here. I want to give up, or did you just were you loving every second of it?
Oh, I loved every second of it. Just the people that would just thank me, and just and I hope this doesn't sound real bad, but going to the racetrack and people saying, oh, that's TJ. That's TJ. That's drag coverage. That's Mr. TJ. Shaking my hand. Thank you so much for what you do. And I still get that a lot.
That's awesome.
But that's the reward for me. And so it's been super exciting even today. The difference between then and now, back then we were only local because of the Facebook, and it was word of mouth, drag coverage. I mean, we were local because of the website, drag coverage. Everybody knew it locally. I would say now we're more worldwide, international. Everybody, because of Facebook, it's so easy to reach people internationally.
Right. Oh, that's so cool. So what got you into drag racing in general? I mean, we jumped into drag coverage here, but you had to have been a race fan and a racer for years, right?
Yeah, that's right. So Dad used to street race. So let me start back. So my uncle used to street race. He got Dad into street racing. I mean, we jump on the back of the truck and we put a chain on the truck and tow Dad's race car a mile down the street and gamble for street races. Now, street races is very popular. If you ever check out the Street Outlaws is the coolest thing in the world. But Dad used to do that back before Street Outlaws came. And he said, I want my kids to race, but I want to teach them the right way. So he started taking us to the drag strip. And that's when I fell in love with it. I was like, this is it. And I said, when I get some money, I want to buy a dragster, those long, narrow cars. So I graduated from Auburn. I bought one. And since then, it's just been addicting. But yeah, that's how I got into drag racing.
From my experience and what little I know about drag racing, those cars are not cheap whatsoever.
No, they're not. They're not. I found some good deals. If I had to, I just finished my 68 Camaro. It's pretty cool. I'll be posting pictures on drag coverage. So that's an ad. I'm putting out a little ad there. Check out drag coverage. But no, if you had to buy my Camaro, brand new and build it with no engine or transmission, you're looking at probably $125,000 brand new, the Camaro. That's just one car, and I've got 3.
So what did you do to build up the money to do that? Because you have a goal, right? The goal was always racing, but you had to do something to step into racing.
Yeah, so it's like anything in life, and I drag race. You got to crawl before you walk. You've heard that before, and it's the same with drag racing. If I showed you the first picture of the first drag car I ever owned, it was garbage. First of all, it's one of the biggest mistakes I ever made in my life. So my dad builds me this 1967 Super Sport Chevelle. It is absolutely gorgeous. And I'm going to put it in perspective. This car is probably worth $40,000 today. He gives it to me for my 16th birthday. And I'm like, dude, I want to go drag racing. And I traded it for this pile of shit dragster that's probably worth today about $1,500. But yeah, so that's where I started. And this guy sends me, we ship the Chevelle. which was it was a Super Sport Chevelle. We ship it to the guy.
Oh,
He ships this dragster. It's this
such a
pile
nice car.
of crap when I get it. And but I don't regret it, because every day, instead of being on the streets, and every day instead of being at the bar and club, I worked every day on that car to improve it. Every single day. That was my life, working on that car.
Dreams don't work unless you do.
Yeah, it just took me off so but you have to crawl before you walk. So I sold it, and I bought a nicer car. And I sold that car, put money with it, and bought an even nicer car. And then when I graduated from Auburn, my goal was to build a brand new dragster. And I saved and saved and saved. And I bought one brand new. Then I sold it, put the money with it, and bought it. And so just so on, just gradually upgrade.
That makes perfect sense. I mean, that's how pretty much everything goes. I mean, you start off with a little thing, and then it gets a little better and a little better and a little better until finally you're up here and you're like, wow.
Wow, I know it. So, I mean, when I show people the things I got, it ain't because I'm bragging. I'm like, I'm proud to be here.
Yeah, absolutely.
Look where I came from. So basically nothing. So yeah, and I'm same with an RV. Had a super cheap RV. And I sold it, and I bought a little bit nice one. It was like a 1992 RV, like those old school RVs, and I sold it. And I really went to a diesel motorhome. I'm like, oh, we're balling now.
Yep.
Then I go to Memphis $1 Million Race, and they go, TJ, you're a sponsor. You park on the front row. I'm like, no, I want to park down here because I'm embarrassed of my RV. He's like, no, you got to go up front. So I'm driving up to the front, and there's all these big stacker rigs, buses, and there's this little spot, and then I'm driving in my 1990 something RV, pulling up in there. And so anyway, with that RV, I sold it, and I just bought my latest RV a few weeks ago, and it's
that thing's
I feel like
nice.
I can park on the front row.
I see.
And I'm not bragging
nice.
about. It's just taken several years to get to that point. So to answer your question, it's just little baby steps, saving, and saving.
Yeah, step by step.
Yeah. So
what's like one of the hardest challenges you had to overcome when it comes to like racing? Because when you're racing on a track, right, like there's all sorts of classes, and there's like like I said, I know very little. I know more like the rally cars or NASCAR, stuff like that. When you're racing on a track, though, there's different tiers, correct?
Yeah.
In drag racing too, right?
Right. I would say the biggest challenge is consistency. And you're racing against some of the best racers in the country. And if there's $1 million, we raced for $1 million last July. It was in Memphis, Tennessee, one of the greatest, best promoters in the world. His name is Galen Rollison, one of my great friends. So you got $1 million on the line, and you have 400 of the best racers in the country.
Wow.
I mean, they're coming from Texas, Washington, New York, from South Florida. And you can imagine they have the best equipment in the world, best equipment money can buy. And not only do they have the best equipment, they've got 3 or 4 cars in the trailer. And they got multiple drivers. So you can imagine what the challenge is, where they have the best equipment. And here I am with building my own cars, which I've got a lot of help, Brandon Taylor. So I'm listening. I'm mentioning names because I want them to hear this. But I guess the biggest challenge is ensuring your equipment is as good as theirs, and ensure you've been practicing so that your driving skill is there. And drag racing is basically when luck meets opportunity. And so
I like that.
That's the biggest challenge.
How dangerous is it? And like, I know that's a rhetorical question, but how dangerous, like, so the G-force, this is something I recently learned, like when you're going so from 0 to 200 in a quarter-mile strip, the G-force like throws you back. And then when you stop and your parachute comes out, it throws you forward. And I've heard that's really bad for your body. Actually
not. It's a really good ab workout. It's not good for your body. It actually feels good. I mean, you're like, So I stage. I'm in this car. I'm in this Camaro. It accelerates. I'm running 8th mile typically, and it goes 0 to just say 200 miles per hour in 3 seconds. So from a standstill, 200 miles per. Can you imagine?
Well, that's insane. So to put that into perspective,
how long does it take you to get to 60 miles per hour in your car? 8 seconds?
Something like that, maybe even longer.
But probably longer than that. You're like me. I drive a Honda. Let's go ahead and put this out there. I drive a Honda Accord. I am very proud of my Honda Accord, miles per gallon. Everyone thinks I drive some supercar because I drag race. I'm like, no. I spend enough gas on the drag strip. I am not spending gas on my daily driver.
Yeah, that's so true.
So you're sitting there, you press this button and you slam it to the floor at the starting line. And when you release the button, all 2,500 horsepower, and some people have more horsepower, but I have about 2,500 horsepower. All 2,500 horsepower hits the tires and throws you in the seat. And I've got fire suit, gloves, SFI 15 driving suit, which is that thick, Hans device, helmet. I got the GoPro over there smiling. I'm like, yeah, bro. Got the GoPro on the side. And when you release that button, it goes 0 from standstill 60 feet in less than a second. So you can imagine the G's. I need to pull up the G meter. You can imagine the G's. And it throws you in the seat. Imagine accelerating going 60 feet in less than a second. Mark off 60 feet and try going there in less than a second. And it's pulling you and never stops pulling you. You're throwing you to the seat, the engine's screaming. And you get to the finish line, you're like, get to 200 miles per hour, you're like, whoa, this is cool. Oh, got to throw the parachutes because you don't have much room to stop. You need the parachute to stop. You pull the parachute handle. There's about 2 seconds delay. And when 2 parachutes hit at 200 miles per hour, it's the most fun part of the race. It like throws you forward and you're like, oh my God. I remember the first time I threw the parachutes, I thought I was going to crash. I'm like, this car is about to come off the ground. I mean, I'm about to die. But yeah, that's the best part. You only have an 1/8 mile to stop and you pull in 2 parachutes. But the good thing about the parachutes, you go from 200 miles per hour to 0 in like no time. So
wow, that's crazy.
It's addictive. I can talk about drag racing all day long.
How hard is it to keep that car straight? Like, it seems so simple, right? Like, oh yeah, just hold the wheel straight. But like when you're going that fast, like
it's all in setup. And one thing, if you put a lot of preparation in the chassis and setup, you have a good car. So we spent the extra and got a really nice car. And one of my best friends, his name is Jacob Raymer. He set up the car. And that's where a lot of racers struggle. Their suspension, you've heard about. I mean, it's the same thing with road course racing. If the suspension is not right, you're taking a turn, it's going to be terrible. If your suspension is right on a road course, the turn is a lot easier. Same with drag racing. We set the suspension up. Literally, the first pass I ever made in this car at 2,500 horsepower, you could drive it. You don't even have to turn the wheel. And then you see a lot of racers struggle. They're all over the racetrack. It's dangerous, but it all goes to quality of car and suspension. And that's one thing we made sure we had, basically, because of safety.
I've seen a few like pretty scary. I mean, it's scary when you see, I haven't seen an actual drag car crash, but I've been to the drag strip quite a few times and it's like anybody can come race. And there was some 8-second, 7-second cars, which is pretty respectable for like a just open night. And this one guy, he was just coming straight down. Luckily, there was nobody to his right. He was on the left lane and he just, for whatever reason, his car went woo, woo, and just jammed right against the wall. And like, I was like, holy, like,
and that's the challenge. That's the risk we take, even in my car. Just imagine you're going 200 miles per hour. You're rolling through there at 200 miles per hour. What if your parachutes don't come out?
Why? I never even thought of that.
You panic and then you get on the brakes hard. Car takes a turn into the wall. I've seen that happen before. One of my good friends in Indianapolis at the U.S. Nationals, his name is Tim Tyndall, one of the worst crashes in drag racing history. He gets out of the groove a little bit. And, if you get out of the groove, you can imagine one tire stuck, one tire is kind of spinning. What is that car going to want to do?
Yeah.
So it takes an immediate turn, goes towards the guardrail, goes in the air over the guardrail and starts barrel rolling. Yeah. And I mean, he was in the hospital for several days. And unfortunately, there are a lot of people that have passed in drag racing. And, but when you ask about how dangerous it is, I always give this answer. I know it's crazy. I say it's more dangerous to drive up and down the highway than it is to drag race.
Yeah, definitely. I fully believe that. I say that to everybody when people like say, "Oh, isn't that dangerous?" I'm like, "How do you get to work every day?" Right. I drive. That's the most.
If I get in a crash, I'd rather
do.
have a roll cage around me.
Yeah. So you guys, that was actually my next question. I was gonna say, like, F1, those things hit and they disintegrate. Like, what's it like for a drag car? You guys have like a roll cage?
Yeah. So the F1 cars, I've been told, are built so they disintegrate. Been told that. I mean, I may not be an expert in F1. I hear certain pieces of the car fall off to save the driver's life. It's kind of the same in drag racing. I mean, they don't disintegrate, but I mean, you'll notice after a crash, the driver's compartment is usually still intact. So we basically build them to save weight, but also to protect the driver.
And how do you find that perfect balance? Because there's got to be corners that you want to cut to, like, oh man, if I had like 20 pounds less, I could do this. Like,
I would say we're still trying to find that. A lot of chassis builders are pushing it to save weight.
Yeah.
And the cars are becoming unsafe. But I think by now it's 2021. Chassis builders have found that. But the only issue you have with lightening cars, making a car lighter, it becomes more brittle. So it breaks a lot of pieces. So you just have to keep up on the maintenance side of things.
What is
Dad's always telling me, my dad says, a clean car is a safe car. I was like, what does cleanness have to do with safety? I never understood that. He says, when you're cleaning a car, you can see things that are broken. I said, it makes sense.
Yeah.
So I clean it, polish it, every piece of it, and you always find, this bolt's loose.
Yeah. What does maintenance look like? So before a race and after a race, is there any things you have to do?
Yeah, typically on the so I have the Pro Mod and I have a Dragster, which is the rail car engine behind you. But the Pro Mod is a little more maintenance, change oil every race, adjust the valve. So making sure all the engines compartment's still tight. Take the wheels and tires off, make sure you check. It's got carbon brakes, checking all the carbon brakes, packing the parachutes. That's pretty much it. And then compression test to make sure the engine's still healthy. Those are the biggest things. And then fuel system, just maintaining the fuel system if there's going to be some time between races. But it's not too bad.
Okay.
So the top fuel cars, which you were supposed to go watch, they basically maintain those between every pass.
Oh, wow. So when you just said packing the parachute, I didn't even think of that. So you got to throw that thing back in there. That's
every single lap I make. I have 2 parachutes to pack, and it sucks big time.
I mean, can you explain that? Like, how does that work? You just have to.
Yeah. So there's a method.
You can't just throw it in there.
No,
right?
you just can't throw it in there. There's a method you have to do. So I have what they call air launchers, and some people just have springs, but I have the air launchers. So mine is on a CO2 system. So I turn the CO2 bottle on. And it puts out these 2 compressed cylinders full of CO2, and it arms the parachutes. So when I pull the cable comes open, those CO2 cylinders push the parachutes out. So it's like, whoo, like that. And so parachutes come out, I throw them on the back of the car, we go back to the pits in the trailer. And so I turn the CO2 bottle off so the cylinders will go in. And it usually takes 2 of us. There's a method. Double fold, fold. It's like folding a blanket.
Okay.
And then packing it. We have the small package that we put them in, but it's pretty simple. It's not as hard as you think.
Yeah, I just imagine if
the hardest thing is remembering to turn the damn CO2 bottle on. Because I did that crap. I forgot to turn the CO2 bottle on. I get to the finish line. I'm like, okay, I'm waiting for it to throw me forward. Oh crap, they're not coming out. Get on the brakes. Luckily got stopped.
Has that happened before? Like a few times?
It's happened twice. So now my dad's like, make a damn checklist.
That's
no, the worst part is I was getting ready to go to the starting line the last time with this brand new car, brand new paint job. And I'm like, you know how we are on social media, we want to post on our stories. So I told them, stop. I wanted to grab my phone. So I reached down to grab my phone and I told them to stop. I thought I left it at the trailer. I told them to stop, but I was still looking down. So the car ran into the back of the golf cart. So I've got this big ass scratch on the front, but we won't talk about that.
So how many years were you in drag racing before you started drag coverage?
I was in drag racing. I started drag coverage about the same time I started driving.
So you just fell in love with this right away.
Yeah, I fell in love. I've always been around drag racing my life. Growing up as a kid at 6 years old, as we were in diapers at the racetrack. And about the same time I started driving, which was around college, is when I started the website, Drag Coverage. It was dragcoverage.com, but I feel weird saying .com because, I mean, how often do you put in a www. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
it's either a link. You see the link from your Instagram, or so it's really the brand is Drag Coverage.
Yeah. So when you start this, I mean, you got to be doing 100 different things at once here, right? You said you were a student, you were racing. What else did you have going? I mean, you have a life to live too, right? You're a healthy guy. I
Yep.
imagine you're working out. Like,
Yeah. So working out. At the time, I wasn't seeing anybody, so I wasn't dating. It makes it harder now. So at the time, I was, by the way, happy Pride. But at the time, I was racing, running the website, trying to get an engineering degree, working out, partying, trying to do all that at one time. But now life is a lot simpler, but still a lot of those challenges, which is trying to keep the website updated. I think we talked about it the other day, trying to get the website updated. I've got a partner now who's in residency, getting his general surgery. So hopefully when he's a general surgeon, life will be a lot easier for me.
yeah,
I'll
right.
retire, sit at the lake house, chill out, work on drag coverage. But we're not there yet. So damn it, I guess I'll just have to work now.
So what was like the challenges trying to balance all that stuff when you were younger, starting drag coverage? Like there had to have been good.
Yeah, it's the same challenges that I have right now, finding the time to do it, finding the time and making the time. How many times do you do? How many times do you sit there and stare at the laptop? Don't know what to type.
Yeah.
That was the biggest challenge, not knowing what to type. So I forgot, let me step back. The guy I told you about, Tim Tyndall, that I was really good friends with, had the bad crash. He gave me my first media job, which was one of the best jobs I've ever had in my life. He literally paid me to travel across the country with him to take pictures and write press releases. And of his car.
Pretty sweet.
Yeah. And it was like literally like $4,000 a month just to keep up his website, take pictures, press releases every race. That's all I did. And literally pay for my flight, traveling, all these expenses. Awesome. Great. He doesn't race now, unfortunately. He's still one of my great friends, not because of the job, because of our friendship, but he paid me really well. And there's a lot of people that get paid to do that, the sponsorship side, the media side. But that was also a challenge. So trying to manage Tim Tyndall's media side, trying to manage drag coverage, trying to manage a relationship, trying to stay in shape and work out and exercise, trying to eat healthy. Should I go on? Trying to maintain your own racing program. Should I go on? You understand?
Yeah, absolutely. It's all about.
So now you throw a relationship on top of that. Fortunately, my partner loves racing. That is awesome.
Thank God.
Having somebody to go to the racetrack with you, somebody is about to start helping with the website. So I'm excited about that. I think you're about to see a major growth in drag coverage starting next week.
I love it. I love to hear that. And what would that be from?
From my partner taking over the operations of the website.
And what does that give you more time to do?
It gives me it gives drag coverage time to be updated, which I don't have the time to do.
Okay.
Yeah. So it gives me more time to really focus on the operations of the website.
What's like the day-to-day of drag coverage currently?
So currently the day-to-day, and this is one of the things we struggle on now, the day-to-day right now is pretty much the operations, posting the news, drag racing news. One of my biggest challenges is drag coverage is different because we think outside the box. You know, a lot of news sites like Fox and CNN, I'm just using them as an example. Well, I'm not going to say CNN, but a lot of the news sites are all professional. Oh, this is great. Drag coverage posts the real news. So one of my biggest challenges is, should I really post that? I mean, it's about to go out to millions of people. Do I really want to post this crazy news that none of the news sites are going to post? But yeah, so that's my main focus. Though. Yeah, it does. And I had a guy that worked for me. His name is Mike Shabrack. I had him work for me a few years ago. And he's the one that kind of started that. He says, let's be different, think outside the box. And dude, every time he'd make a post, I'd be like, my butthole would squeeze up. I'm like, oh, this is not going to be good. This is not going to be good. Oh my God, we're going to get sued. And he literally helped me take the site to the next level because we're thinking outside. We're different. Yeah. We're not going to post the, oh my God, Nick Cole, he's the best ever, the best bodybuilder. This is like, no, we're more like, Nick needs to get his shit together.
I love it. So when you're doing like the operations and posting, like this is obviously your business. So how do you generate income from this?
So our income comes from two different things. Our income comes from race advertising. A lot of promoters want to promote their races, and so that income comes from that. A lot of sponsorships where people want to promote a product. We're about to try to start do something differently now. I feel like there's a need, not so much a need, there's a want for people to display their cars, their projects on a big level. When I say big, I feel like we're big. I mean, compared to a lot of, 150,000 followers may not be big to a lot of folks, but if you take that and the reach of Facebook, which is even bigger, a lot of people I feel like want to put their car on that stage. So we're going to offer some, I guess they call them on Instagram, maybe some promos where, hey guys, we can feature your car for, I don't know, $250.
Yeah.
I feel like you take 13 million people and,
yeah, no, that's a great idea.
You may get a few people that want to display their cars,
Yeah, absolutely.
We do that for free anyway, but if maybe there's a need, we're going to try that. But there's several promotional opportunities and things that we're going to look into. Race coverage, live race coverage, being on site, we're going to offer that.
Ooh.
For instance, if you want drag coverage covering your race, going live, race by round coverage, you can pay us to have somebody on site. You can pay a photographer. Also, if you want to pay to have your race results on the website, we're going to start. My partner has put together this huge, big plan of a lot of things we're talking about, and we're going to get together today to put that in action. But that's one of my biggest challenges is like you and I talk about. We focus on the content, but none of the sales side.
Yeah, that's kind of my problem too. I do the same thing. It's always like I'm trying to find the best content, trying to think of what I want to say to people, and then I'm like, I'm not even talking about the product at all. So.
And it's tough too. It's tough too when you're working. So I work a full-time job, and I'm an electrical engineer. I'm a manager at my company, so I manage the contract services department for my company. So imagine you got employees working for you. You're working full-time. And you got all these advertisers and sponsors that want to talk to you, and you can't. And so having someone run the sales and operations side where somebody can take phone calls all day and take these sales and reach out to people and say, hey, dude, you got a race coming up this weekend. We can reach this many millions or thousands of people, $250. You do the math. You add that up 250 times, at least 10 people.
Right.
It becomes, I feel like, a decent income.
Yeah, absolutely. Is your goal to do this full time and not work your electrical engineer job?
I don't want to do it full time because I've always said I don't want to turn a hobby and something I enjoy into something I have to do. And so I've loved drag coverage. There's several years I've done drag coverage without making a dime. And I've done some swapping out between events where I could race or product, like I get product swaps, but I genuinely enjoy the website and making people happy and giving people a place to get news. I don't want to turn that into something I have to do. I don't feel like I don't feel that the quality of the product would be as good either.
Yeah, that's a good point too. I like that.
I love it. That's why I've done it. So that's why I've done it so long. I feel like that's why it's been so successful, is because I do it because I love it, not because I have to.
You're not doing it.
I don't want to change it.
I have to.
It's kind of like working out. I feel like if I had to work out, I probably wouldn't enjoy it as much.
Yeah.
So, I could be wrong though. If I could work out for a living, that would be great.
Yeah, sign me up.
Yeah.
So when you're putting a car together for the first time, I'm trying to think of like someone new trying to get into racing. What is something you'd tell them?
I would say one of the biggest things is what we talked about before is crawl before you walk. Don't step into a 300 miles per hour car when you've only been 80 miles per hour on the interstate. Nick, how fast have you been on the interstate? What's the fastest you ever been?
I don't want to answer that.
I'm turning you in. I'm going to turn you into the cops. I want to hear. What's the fastest you ever been?
It depends on my bike, probably almost 150, 160. In a car, about 125, 140.
I'm recording this right now. So, all right. So, Nick, how fast have you been on? No, I'm kidding. So, 150 miles per hour, dude. What kind of bike do you have?
I don't have it anymore. I sold it for that reason, but I had a DSXR.
Dang. Yeah, did you feel like it was unsafe?
I was 100% gonna die.
So is that when people say that's dangerous? Is that what you were referring to?
Yeah, it was just one of those things where if I kept it, there wasn't a day that I took it out that I kept it under 100, and I wouldn't even be on the highway. Like I would just be on like a little road that had a straightaway. I mean,
You look like a bike rider. I don't know why. I don't know what
I
that look
loved it,
looks like.
man.
I would have just guessed you were a bike rider. Yeah.
If I wasn't married or like wanting to have a family, I would have a bike and just wouldn't
But you
care.
love it,
I want
huh?
a Ducati 1299 Panigale. You ever see those?
Yes.
Oh,
Any
that's
kind
like
of Ducati, I'll take. Those bikes are. So my dad always says, he says, it's not you that you have to worry about riding a bike. It's everybody else.
That's just
That's
it.
that's this crazy and scary thing about it. So,
There was
but I would
quite a
say that
few
would be the biggest
times
thing.
I
Well, you've
actually
been 150, so you probably could handle my race car. So you got to come down and drive it. But I'd say that's the biggest thing is don't just step into a fast. So many people do that. Step into a fast car, have a crash, accident because they don't know. They've never been in that situation. I mean, it's great when things are going straight and fast, but what happens when things get out of control? How you gonna handle it?
Yeah, and it's scary. I mean, and a lot of it, like, thankfully on a racetrack. Well, even on a racetrack, it's probably even worse because you got someone right next to you. You got to be worried about them too. But like my thing, I actually fell once because some guy was like pulling a landscaping trailer around a really sharp corner. And it was a really narrow road and I was leaning into the corner. I was only going like 25, 30. It wasn't I wasn't going fast this time. And his trailer was halfway over because it was such a small, narrow road. And I had a choice to hit the trailer or stand up and go in the woods. And I just went in the woods and fell. I didn't really get hurt. I got a couple scrapes on me. It was nothing.
You're lucky. I mean, just imagine how bad that could have been. What if there wasn't woods there? What if there was something there?
If there was a bridge or something, I don't know. I don't know.
That's the scary part about it. People have no respect for bikes or anybody on the highway anymore.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, it was like, I don't know. I wouldn't say it was entirely his fault. Like, I mean, he was in my lane, but at the same time, like I should know that corner. I've driven on it 100 times. So
I feel like you could probably handle my drag car. We're going to have to put that to the test.
would love to put that.
I mean, I can't even get you to the drag strip, first of all, but we're going to try to get you in the driver's seat. I mean,
so I actually used to go to the dragway every Friday night with one of my
used to. Okay.
Yeah, one of my best friends.
Used to. When in fact there was literally a NHRA event next door. You can't even go to that.
I know. Dude. Oh, I did want to. I got every excuse for it, you know.
I'm just giving you a hard time, but yeah, you got to come check out the drag car. That would be the biggest thing I would say. And two, just crawl before you walk. Don't go out to buy the most expensive car. You know, find something that you can step up to.
Definitely.
Like you want to get the Ducati? You started out with the other bike first.
Yeah.
Now your next bike will be a Ducati.
Oh, one day. I tell my wife all the time, like I'll see one drive by. I'm like, can I get that? She's like, no, you're not happening. I know.
Dude, where are you from? I'm trying to figure out the accent.
New Hampshire.
How you say it again?
New Hampshire.
New Hampshire. New Hampshire. New Hampshire.
New Hampshire.
Because we and your people probably hate me, but we're from the South. We're from Alabama. Anything above Tennessee, we consider the North. We consider Yankee the North. So you from New Hampshire. Man. You from like New Hampshire, Boston, all
that's as
Boston.
North as that's almost as north as it gets. We got Maine above us.
That's as north as it gets, man. You talking as north, yeah, So, but yeah, I'm gonna try to talk like that for the rest of the interview, man. we try to figure that out,
Alabama, damn. So
it's pretty southern, pretty country, everything you expect. But I love it. But I just moved to New Orleans now, so New Orleans.
Yeah.
New Orleans is pretty cool. New Orleans, you got a totally different culture. You got the Cajuns down here. I love it.
I've never been.
So we moved to New Orleans. We buy a house, and for day one, what do you have to do day one when you first get to the place you're moving to?
Set your shit up. Set the gym up was my first priority.
Yes, you understand. You got to find a gym.
Yeah,
right. You got to find a gym. You understand? Yes,
dude. So
my boy, we'll get along.
I have traveled like to many different places, like Colombia, Aruba, Puerto Rico, St. Thomas, all these different places, like in the Eastern Pacific.
Love St. Thomas, by the way. St. John, love it.
Yeah, very nice. And first thing I would do before we even pulled in, I would where's the nearest gym? I need a local.
Where'd you go to in St. Thomas? Do you remember the gym?
No, I don't remember any. The coolest gym was Aruba, and this place was insane. Like it wasn't nice by any means. It was like almost like it was like a complete dump. They didn't even have like windows. It was just like a concrete building with holes cut out. And I mean, all the equipment had to have been from the 70s, 80s. There was just massive people in there. And the vibe of this place, like they had music just blaring.
Cool.
It was just one of those metal plates, old school bodybuilding gyms. And it was incredible. Like I have a buddy that's going to Aruba, and I was like, listen, you got to find this place. Like it was awesome. I wish I knew the name of it.
So Key West has one similar to that. It's smaller though. So if you ever go to Key West, I don't remember the name of it, but no air conditioner. Yeah. All the doors are up. Yep. Everybody's working off with their shirts off.
Yeah.
Old equipment. It's one of the coolest gyms I've ever been to.
I love it.
So I'll have to check that out if I go to Aruba. The reason I asked you about St. Thomas, one of my good friends, Abounder Fitness, they've got a gym in St. Thomas. It's really cool. Really nice.
Oh, really?
Yeah. TJ, anyway, he and his wife own a super cool gym there. But yeah, so we get to New Orleans and we're like, so the first thing you got to do is find a gym, for God's sake. So I'm like, surely we're going to New Orleans, probably have tons of gym options. When I tell you, dude, it is total opposite. So the first thing we get there, and I ask, we can't even Google a gym. Like there's no gyms even coming up on Google. No. And so we started the first week at Anytime Fitness, if that tells you how bad it was. Boy. Yeah, I know. And so we started asking around, and we got the same answer all the time. Dude, nobody works out here. It's New Orleans. We just eat and drink.
What?
It is the culture here. Eat and drink and invite people over to eat and drink.
How does it affect you? Like,
how does it affect me?
Yeah, I mean, I like being around that. Like, I would want to be around people that work out.
It affects you. It sucks you in. It is literally the best culture I have ever lived in and experienced or visited in my life. Everyone, the Cajuns, the New Orleans, I mean, literally, you come in my house. Do you want something to eat? Do you want to drink? It was coming from Alabama. It was different for me because you're walking down the sidewalk, and even in Alabama and Birmingham, you just walk straight ahead. If somebody speaks to you, you go, hey. New Orleans, you're walking down. They're like, hey. They cross the street and come talk to you and meet you. Everybody that passed by our house stops and talks. I love it now, but at first you're like, what? Even coming from Alabama. So that's the culture. It's just eat, drink, socialize. We don't care who you are. And so it's tough because, I mean, that's the culture. And then you go to this gym. So I finally found this great gym. It's called Premier Fitness. Beautiful gym. Huge, some of the best equipment I have. And you go in there, and even today you go in there, it's like 20 people in there. There's really nobody there.
Wow. I'm shocked.
So right now, my partner is in Lafayette, has a rotation for residency. So you go to Lafayette, which is 2 hours from New Orleans, total opposite. I mean, dude, this is, you know how, so you said Aruba, the best gym you ever had, the best gym I've ever been to in my life, including over Key West, is in Lafayette, Louisiana. It's a gym called Reds. The owner was a bodybuilder. He started in the 50s and 60s. And can you imagine how nice it is?
The second you said that he was a bodybuilder, I have a good picture in my head.
Yeah, he is probably 80s, 90s, right? 90-year-old right now, 80, 90-year-old right now. He comes to work 3:30 in the morning. It has a full-size kitchen cafeteria, 3 floors, palm trees outside, full-size basketball court, full-size racquetball court, outside swimming pool, inside swimming pool, hot tub, huge locker room, best equipment, bodybuilder equipment down there. Lifetime, LA Fitness. It's and then the fitness culture. There's 9-year-olds, for God's sake, so it looks like bodybuilders there.
Really?
Yeah, you go there and you're like, everybody's gorgeous and built. I've never, out of all the places I've been to California, I've been to New York, I've been to Miami, I've been to Mexico. Out of all the places, Lafayette, Louisiana has the most fit people in this one gym. It's just it's the culture of Lafayette. Everybody in this city is fit. In a city I've never even heard of.
Yeah, I mean, I've never heard of that, but
it's mind blowing. I'd compare it to like a big city like Miami, where fitness is huge.
Yeah,
but the difference is they're not. I mean, they're Cajun Southern guys, and yeah, I mean, there's this kid that was working out next to me last night. He's like 12 years old, and I'm like, your arms are literally the size of my arms.
That's wild.
So, but yeah, but so it's I don't even know where we're going with that, but I'm in New Orleans right now,
conversation.
and that's why I am not as shredded as you, but I'm okay with the good food.
How much does like being in shape help with racing? Because
yeah, so we talk about that a lot. So one of my really good friends, his name is AJ Ash, and I like throwing names out there just in case they would hear this. He's also a mentor of mine in drag racing. We talk about that all the time. It's very important. Number one, mental focus. Being healthy and fit gives you mental focus. I don't race as much as all of those guys, but when I do race, I'm usually pretty successful. And I think I contribute a lot of that to my fitness and health. I mean, these guys race every weekend and they're cashing in big bucks. I race 3 or 4 times a year. And here I am this past year, this $50,000 race, it's round by round, and I'm down to the semifinals. I hadn't raced all year long, but I think I contribute a lot of that to mental focus and health. Number one, mental focus, as I mentioned. Number two, I mean, you're going 9 rounds and it's 3 o'clock in the morning, 2 o'clock in the morning before you finish the race. If you're out of shape, you're probably going to be exhausted and not focusing. Yeah. So I usually have the energy, the focus, 9 rounds, not getting tired, getting in and out of the race car. I just think all those things play factor because it's all about the reaction time off the starting line. You got to be quick.
That's true. Quick, yeah. That's a good point.
Got to be quick. So
what is this? So you keep doing that. Like, what is this? Because in my head,
you press this button. You press this button on the steering wheel, and you push it to the floor. And then when it turns green, just imagine your foot's to the floor, and you got this rev limiter, kind of like your bike. You ever done that on your bike? Up, 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 up. You've heard it on the 2-step?
Yeah.
Right.
Little 2-step.
So your car's doing the up. And it's just keeping that whatever RPM you have it at, whatever you set.
Best launch RPM that you can find without pulling the front end off.
And so your start and everything that car has in it is at the mercy of your finger. Because you're pressing this button and it's basically, it's not neutral, but it's kind of like neutral. It's on the 2-step, but it's basically a neutral. And that's the only thing holding the car. You got your foot off the brake. And when it turns green, it's important to let go. So that's what wins races. How quick you are off the start. You would think it would be easy, but just think, if you're going 9 rounds, you're not going to hit it the same every time. You're not going to be as quick the same.
Right. If it's 9 rounds and it's 2 a.m. and you're tired, like you can have a good
let me show you this right quick. What I have. This is pretty cool. It's cool that I have this. So I've got this the steering wheel that I use quite a bit to help me practice. So it's kind of rinky dink, but you'll see the setup. So you see this button right here?
Yeah.
It's really not that dirty. It just looks dirty in this video. I don't know why. It's really clean. It came out of a race car. So you see this button here?
Yeah.
So I've got a Christmas tree, and I don't have it somewhere. I've got a Christmas tree that I set up in my living room and has the simulation of a Christmas tree. So I sit there and press this button, and then when it turns green, I release it. And as easy as that sounds, you're varying quite a bit. So I'll sit there and hit this, and I'll move my finger position. I'll move it to the side. I'll come off straight ahead. I'll come to the side. I'll sit here until my reaction is consistent within a couple thousandths of a second.
I was going to say, even a 1/10 of a second is a big deal when you're about to go.
No, a 1/10 is a lot. You want to get it down to the thousandths.
Wow. So, okay, now give me another little tip and trick like that you do to practice, like, because that's a good way of practicing, because you can't, to practice on a racetrack every day is almost unrealistic for a lot of people.
It's not realistic.
So what else do you do to practice?
I would say the biggest thing is mainly just the Christmas tree is the biggest thing. Testing the Christmas tree, ensuring that you're releasing quickly. A lot of times I'll set it up in my car. I'll wire the button off in my car, so I'll actually be in the car. I'll be sitting there making race car noises. My dad's like, my son is freaking crazy. And I try to test when I don't really have a lot of time to test, like you said. I would say that's the biggest thing. A lot of times I'll sit there, because you don't have much time. When you're staged, you got to go straight to the floor. So a lot of times I'll test in the driveway, make sure the car RPM comes up fast enough. Because you're turning green and your car's like, late start. So we'll sit there and adjust the fuel system and make sure it goes wide open. But yeah.
So what kind of races, you were saying you have friends that like enter and they're winning big bucks every weekend. Like what's the most you've ever won in a race?
So the most I've ever won in a race is, which is, I mean, it's sad to say, is 2021, and this is not really a lot of money in racing, but I've won a lot of $5,000 races. I've won a lot of $10,000 to win races. I've won a $20,000 to win race. 20 is probably the biggest I've ever won. And I came close to winning a $50,000 race this past October 2020. I was 2 rounds short from winning 50,000. We split up the money a little bit. I took home like $5,000, which is still not a bad single day payday.
Yeah, absolutely.
Can you imagine taking home 50,000?
So when you like, obviously you know the race before you enter, you know how much it's going to be. Is there like is there different tiers, like top tier? Is this like, how do they do the pay?
No, it's usually just one race. Usually your biggest guys go to all these races. So sorry, excuse me. They got this race this past weekend. No, it's this weekend. They ended up canceling it. It pays $500,000 to win, $500,000 to win, and so that's the top price. And so the entry fee is like $1,500 to win. I mean, $1,500 to enter. Wow. And so you'll pay $1,500. You're in the race. It's kind of like gambling at the casino. You're taking a chance, but at least it's more at your control than the casino's control.
Yeah.
I always figure it's like gambling.
Yeah.
And so coming up here in July or August, we have the guaranteed $1 million. It'll pay $1 million again. And so the entry fee for that is $3,000. And so you're probably asking the question, how's the promoter making money? The promoter is always making money.
Sponsors. Oh yeah. They get.
Oh, you just figure $3,000 entry fee. All right. You do $3,000 entry fee and you have 400 cars because you're like, oh my God, they're paying $1 million. So 3,000 entry times 400 cars. That's 1.2 million. Mm-hmm. And then if you lose first round, they have what they call a buyback option. So it's like a second chance to get back into the race. Mm-hmm. And which is cool because it would suck to drive, all those rounds and then you make a stupid mistake first round. So you get a buyback round for those that lost, get a second chance. So you're at 1.2 million. So the buyback round is usually like $750. So half lost, half of the 400 lost. So that's how many left? 200. Mm-hmm. So 200 has to buy back. So $750 times 200 cars is 150. So the promoter's making money.
Yeah, absolutely. Plus all the
promoters
sponsors
making what?
And
The
the
promoter,
ads
yeah.
and
Then plus the sponsors.
Stands,
Promoter's probably making, $200,000.
Do you ever promote races?
Yeah, so it's funny you say that. I do one a year.
Nice.
It's August 21st in Steel.
Nice.
And so it's I use the website as promotion, DragCoverage.
Oh yeah.
It's called the DragCoverage Night of Fire. And it's one of the biggest drag racing events in Alabama.
Really? That's awesome.
So that's another way to promote the brand and get racers together, just carrying on the legacy of drag coverage. Absolutely. And a lot of people will attend that race specifically because it's drag coverage, if that makes sense.
Yeah. They like the brand. They like the
brand. They're like, oh, I got to go to that race. It's the Drag Coverage Nationals,
Yeah.
Like, oh, I like Ariana Grande. I got to go to her concert.
Right. Yeah. It's the brand.
Is that who you like? Who do you listen to?
Music? I'll tell you.
No. But I want to hear you listen to off the cuff. Where do you need to think about?
I like a lot of 3 Days Grace, a little Breaking Benjamin.
Is that like country or rock?
That's rock. Yeah. Okay. Some Linkin Park. I do listen to a lot of country too. I like country.
Listen to old school R&B?
No, not really.
Really? Old school rap?
Yeah, a little bit. So I don't like pretty much any of the new stuff. Like all the new stuff for the last probably 5 years, I don't listen to almost any of it. It's all so bad in my opinion. Like I like the older countries, like the early 2000s. Same thing with rock. That's the early 2000s.
Love the 90s. There's this place in New Orleans that plays all the old school stuff, like 2000s.
Yeah.
I love the 2000s music.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, even like the pop stuff. I like the 2000s pop stuff.
I don't like any of the new pop or any of that.
Yeah, no.
Okay, I was just curious, but I don't know where you're going with that question. I was just curious, man. Ariana, so you don't like Ariana Grande, Rihanna, Britney, you like a
Rihanna,
Britney,
I like Rihanna.
you like a Britney Spears kind of guy.
Nah, not really.
What?
I honestly didn't even know she was a singer. 100%. Didn't know she. I thought she was like some crazy celebrity.
Yeah. So you like Miley Cyrus. I mean, you just like a Miley Cyrus, Britney Spears, Beyonce type of guy. But I could be wrong. My bad. I had you pegged wrong. I'm sorry. So you don't have Rihanna posters in the back?
I do like Rihanna. Rihanna's my favorite female singer by a landslide.
She's great.
Big Rihanna fan.
Okay, cool.
I was gonna ask what?
I like all those singers. Anyway, go ahead. You're gonna ask what?
How far do you travel to race?
So when I first started racing, I would travel to Vegas, New York. I didn't care. Thousands of miles to travel. Of course, traveling with Tim Tyndall, flying a lot of those. My own racing career, I traveled to the Carolinas, round trip, probably 1,000 miles. But I guess the older I get and as priorities change, getting a family now, I enjoy being at home. I don't like traveling as much. I try to keep it local now.
Yeah.
So 3 hours max. And it's crazy. Back then, I didn't even have the RV I have now, but I've got this RV that's ready to travel. It's like tour bus. It's like a tour bus. And I'm like, pull up into the local track with a damn tour bus. It looks like I'm going to race for $1 million. And, and a lot of our local folks, guys, do the same thing. They'll pull in their RV. But I like being home on Sunday.
Oh, yeah.
See, a lot of these big racers, and I used to love it, they race, like before they cancel the $1 million race, the $500,000 race, they'll start racing on Tuesday to Sunday. Can you imagine Tuesday to Sunday racing? And just think about that. The track, so the promoter rented the track, and he's going to rent it from Monday to Sunday. So they're going to race from Tuesday to Sunday. So the local tracks will say, you know what? We got all these cars coming in. Why don't we put a race on the week before? So a lot of these racers will say, oh, well, let's just go the week before and race the local tracks race. And then we'll stay for the $1 million race. So they're racing for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So a lot of these racers race for a living, and they do a good job at it. They are the best of the best. Hunter, I'm throwing names you won't know, but Hunter Patton, Johnny Ezel, these are people I really look up to that do it for a living. And it takes passion to do that if you're going to race that much.
You got to love it. I'm a really big be at home guy too. Like I like being home. My wife and I just had a great conversation about this the other night. We're talking about how people will put a vacation on their calendar 2.5, 3 years away. And that's the only thing they're looking forward to because they need a quote break and they need to quote get away. And I've never understood that concept. I've always said, like, why don't you try and build a life that you don't need to get away from? Like, why do you stay in a job that you hate? Why do you not like where you're living? Why do you buy the cheap blender when you can buy the nice one and like enjoy it every time you use it? It's just little things like that,
And I agree with you. That's one thing that my partner and I've totally discussed. He's swapping from general surgery to anesthesia because of happiness. He's like, money's not everything, I mean, of course, anesthesia, they'll make as a great living as well, but it's kind of some of the same concepts you're talking about. Build a life that we're happy, that we don't have to feel like we have to get away for or plan anything for. And so he's swapping over to anesthesia. And that's how we feel right now. I mean, we're happy. Yeah. If anything, we have to plan time to be home. We're like, this is kind of nice to be home and chilling for a weekend,
Yeah.
So I have to agree with you 200% on that.
Yeah. It's big. That's big. Well, big. I have a question for you. This is my favorite question to ask at the end of all podcasts. Knowing what you know now, what would you tell yourself when you were 18?
Knowing what I know now, what would I tell myself if I was 18?
Mm-hmm. When you were younger, you were a kid, you were starting out, whatever.
I would say the biggest thing I would tell myself is be happy who you are, be confident in who you are. And if you're confident in who you are, no one will care. People will respect you and love you even more. I feel like at age 18, you're trying to be something that the world wants you to be.
Mm.
And I feel like I have struggled that. I feel like several have struggled identity, who they are, who they love, what they love. And you're basically building a life to make others happy. So if I knew what I knew now, I am more confident and more happy than I've ever been in my life at this moment because of that lesson. And I wish I had started at age 18, and I feel like I would be even more happy starting back then. And so I would say that would be my biggest thing, whether if you're, I mean, whatever, gay, career-wise, things you may disagree with on your family, be who you want to be. And see that, and not only be who you want to be, but I'm gonna leave you with this. Be confident in who you are, and nobody will care. That's the biggest piece of advice my dad ever gave me. Be confident in who you are, and nobody will care. If anything, they'll feed off of it. So that'll be my biggest advice.
That was a phenomenal answer. I love that. That was good.
And so I've used that in my life today. So I'm like, when I tell people who I am or what I like or whatever, I'm like, yeah. And they're like, dude, what's up? I love you, man.
Yeah.
So just confidence. It's all that confidence, man.
Cool, man.
Same thing in bodybuilding, podcast, whatever you may be, drag coverage, doing what you're doing. If you're confident in it, you own it, man, do the best you can. People are going to follow.
Hell yeah. Well, hey, thank you so much, everybody. Thank you for listening. TJ Pruitt.
Yes, thanks for listening. TJ Pruitt, Drag Coverage. Hey, can I see your arms? I want to see who's bigger before we go. You know I'm a little bigger than you. Right?
Yeah, I think you got. I mean, you got like what, 100 pounds?
I mean, no, we ain't gonna talk about numbers, but I'm just a little bigger than you. I just want to make sure you say that live. You just want to make sure I know it. You say that on the podcast that you know that. But man, I really enjoy it. Thanks a lot for asking me to be on this, and looking forward to talking with you and building our friendship, man. I really enjoy it. Yeah, of course, man. Well, hey, thank you again. And everybody, thank you for listening. We'll see you on the next one.